Hello again. I've come to an inspirational garden visit to city of Heinola, which is a small city in southern Finland. Behind these walls there's a townhouse garden maintained following the style of the late 1700s when the garden was first created. These type of high wooden fences or walls were typical for townhouses of this era. And even today, it's easy to see the benefits they bring with them, thinking about privacy and security too. In our house, we have a hedge protecting us from prying eyes during the summer, but in winter, when the leaves are gone, we are quite exposed. Indeed, I wouldn't mind having at least a small section of this type of fencing around our plot too. This quite heavy gate, in my opinion, is also a nice feature. I believe it's just wide enough for a car to drive through. Going into a new garden feels like opening a Christmas present. One can never really know what one is going to get beforehand, because even if one has seen pictures of the place like I had before coming to this place, seeing pictures is not the same as getting the feeling of the place in reality. For example, this garden seems much larger than I would have anticipated by the pictures. This type of central walkway through the garden does give us sort of a grand feeling, doesn't it? And it leads us to this nice opening under the shade of the trees. This is just what one wants to have on a hot summer day like this one. For let's face it, it's much more refreshing to have coffee, cake, or whatever other snacks you might want to have under the shade than it would be in full sunlight. But which of these tables would you prefer to sit at and rest? Instead of those larger groupings of tables and chairs at the open spot, I quite prefer these smaller seating areas. But in fact, this might be even nicer if it was located more at the back there, or at the center of the end of the house. And it's a very pretty house, just to my liking. I especially adore these decorative window frames and the shape of the roof. It's quite interesting. Of course, I had to come and check out this back corner to see the views from here. This kitchen garden part was actually the reason I got interested to visit this garden. For I've decided to create a kitchen garden of my own too, but at the moment I'm only in the very beginning and still very much looking for ideas. This is a very nice secluded corner. If this was my garden, I would put at least a bench here. Little seating areas all around the garden, in fact, are a must, in my opinion. The buildings here represent Rococo and the Swedish Gustavian style. And naturally, the buildings have been painted with these traditional paints that were used when these buildings were first built. In many ways, making the choices like what paint colors to use, were much easier at that time, since the selection from which to choose was much more scarce. But I quite like these older paint colors, since they tend to have this muted tone, which meant that they never looked too glaring or showy. And yes, I should mention that I tend to talk about buildings too when visiting any garden, since the buildings, in my opinion, are an essential part of any garden aesthetics. Here's a cute selection of different type of pelargoniums. The red one there, I believe, is some type of star pelargonium, based on the shape of the flowers. And I'm guessing that the one with the small white flowers is some type of scented pelargonium. And based on the shape of the buds, this light pink pelargonium might be a tulip pelargonium. And now I feel I'm really going into a guessing game here, but this very dark red one here might be some type of ivy leaf pelargonium. And there's a real beauty, again perhaps a star pelargonium, but white this time. Here's a nice view to the main house. It looks like it fits the garden very well, doesn't it? And vice versa, of course. But before going forward, I feel I must take another look at these beautiful pelargoniums. I haven't had pelargoniums in my own garden for a few years now, but seeing this lovely selection here makes me consider whether I should try these again. I mean, even here in Finland, Nordic countries, it is quite possible to overwinter pelargoniums. For example, indoors on the windowsill is the most simple solution, especially if there's a cooler spot for it in a place like veranda or something. In fact, according to historic records, this is something that's been done in Finland for decades now, starting at the earliest from the 1700s. I'll just take a closer look at this star pelargonium, I think. The shape of the flowers is very interesting, almost like flames of red. Seems like a perfect flower if you want to add some punch somewhere. And here are some roses, but because the roses aren't blooming, I don't dare to make any guesses on what type of roses these are. This low ground covering plant, I'm pretty sure is some type of thyme, since those have been commonly used as herbal plants in Finland. This plant has a sort of nice Mediterranean feel about it, and therefore I would like to add it to my garden too, to create an illusion of a warmer climate. Perhaps lemon thyme might be a nice variety to try. Talking about creating a feeling of a warmer climate, they certainly achieve it here. I mean, with all this gravel and somewhat dry looking plants, one could fool oneself that one is visiting a place somewhere in Italy or France perhaps. And these warm earthy tones of this ancient building also support creating the illusion that one has stepped into another country. Walking back towards the main house again, I believe these flower beds in front of the house are filled with the one plant only, some type of aconite if I would have to guess. But again, these flowers aren't blooming at the moment, so I'm making my guess based on the shape of the leaves. And also aconites have been very traditional perennials in Finland, cultivated here for a long time already. Now I believe it's about time to visit the kitchen garden properly. According to the museum, they only grow the type of plants here that would have been cultivated here originally. Here are some herbs. The first one on the left is spearmint. It has some lovely lilac flowers on it. But before talking more about the plants here, I must say that I quite like the design of these long rows of boxes, in which every plant has its own frame, so they are almost like paintings. It looks very lovely indeed in my opinion. And there are these nice little plant tags in every plant, so the one next to the spearmint is a peppermint. Going forward, the design of the garden changes a bit. We now move into this more traditional vegetable garden style. But the layout is still very tidy and thought out, looking quite decorative too, so in many ways it sort of resembles a potager type of garden. And what I feel is very nice is even though there's quite a lot of soil exposed, the surrounding greenery is so luscious that everything feels sort of very full. Here's some type of artichoke. I'll put an example there again because I cannot be quite sure of the exact variety. There are some pumpkins with the yellow flowers. Here's parsley and some sugar peas, all ready to grow up to these canes here. Those are made from natural wood branches, which I very much like, because since they are from nature, they do look like they fit here perfectly, and in my opinion, they also look very pretty. In fact, I feel that I almost prefer the look of these to the obelisks you see there behind. But this may also be because of the red color on those. It's a bit too much for me. And okay, now we have a lot of stuff here, but there's for example sage, and there's palm kale, which sounds quite exotic by the name of it, but can be grown in Finland during the summertime too. How do you feel about these plant tags? I think I quite like them. I like the way the wood has gone all grey, and the way the name of the plant is written there in that very sort of cute manner. Like I mentioned, there are plenty of plants here, so I think I'm not going to mention every one of them, especially since I'm more interested in the design of the place. In this more traditional vegetable garden part, I'm quite taken away by the simple beauty of it. Like here, we have a nice clean row of potato plants, and somehow they manage to look almost like sculptures or something. But let us once again take a look towards the main house. From here there's also a very nice view that one could utilize by having a seating area, bench or something like that here. This is also a very nice semi-shaded spot created by these huge trees that there are plenty in this plot. Most of the big trees here are maples, which can grow pretty fast even during the short Finnish summers. Maples have also been commonly used in Finland, especially in the gardens of these sort of grander houses like this one here. And that's simply because maples, as well as oaks and lindens, have considered to be some of the finest trees that you can grow in Finland. Now we come to these rows of boxes again. Indeed, that is a very effective way to emphasize one plant by giving it its own space in a box like that. I think this is an idea that I simply have to utilize in my own kitchen garden too, somehow. This little plant here is some type of hyssop, a very cute little herb that might very well fit to my garden plants too, since I would like to have this quite decorative kitchen garden. Instead of being just useful for growing food, it also needs to look very pretty. Here we have some oregano. It also has very pretty flowers. I am very happy that most of the herbs seem to have these pretty flowers too. And yes, excuse my ignorance, for I didn't know these things. I have only very little experience from growing food before. Based on what I see here, these mint plants, like the spearmint here, do grow quite a lot bigger than the hyssop or the oregano you saw earlier. And this is of course an important thing to take into account when planning one's kitchen garden. Because especially when one wants to create a very decorative kitchen garden, one has to take into account the plant width and height and how the structure sort of functions together with the lower plants and higher plants. And ideally, the flowers should also create some type of a nice arrangement or flow throughout the kitchen garden beds. I think I also need to think about the color scheme of the flowers and the sort of structures and delicateness, because it's important that the flowers aren't too different that they sort of clash together, but rather they would create this harmonious experience like in this garden. I'm not sure if I have enough space for the kitchen garden of this scale here. I mean, there's a lot of soil, pathways in between, but I do very much like the borderless look where the soil sort of starts right from the edge of the grass. It looks very simple yet effective way to divide the kitchen garden from the lawn. And yes, I know that many people might not want such large trees close to their kitchen garden because they do cast shades over the plantings and may therefore hinder the growth of the kitchen garden plants to some extent. But personally, I stand with those gardeners who love big trees simply so much that even though they may hinder some of the growth a bit, I would never give up big trees in any garden setting. I haven't seen how the garden looks from that back corner. I simply have to go and see the views from there too. And you know what? I now notice that they have used some type of blank etching here too. But it's quite well hidden, so perhaps that's the reason why I didn't notice it before. I did wonder how they are able to keep the edges looking so tidy between the grass and the vegetable garden. But yeah, having those planks there explains a lot, for it's a lot easier to keep them looking sharp with an etching like that. I think this is very pretty kitchen garden. As we head back to the central alley, you see that there are also some other buildings in this plot. Those have simply been serving as storage houses or extra accommodation. Oh yes, I almost forgot. I can give you a good picture of the scale of these trees from here. Look how they reach all the way up to the sky. This is why I love big trees. They create the roof, the green roof of any plot. That's why we should all have loads and loads of those. Once again going forward, I can see that they are growing daylilies there. They are perhaps some old variety. Those are the most hardy ones in our country. It's quite a nice exotic looking orange color on those. It might be something for my pool garden, I think. But I wonder why they aren't all blooming, because there are some blooming on this end and some blooming at the other end, but none in the middle. So perhaps they aren't all the same variety. Anyways, whatever the reason may be, I really like the color and the shape of the whole plant. And here, right beside this central alley or walkway, we have these giant bellflowers. Also a very traditional species, and it's followed by this quite long border of other daylilies and some plants with pretty seed heads, but unfortunately I'm not sure what those are. As one starts to head out from the garden, I noticed that the entryway looks also very pretty from this side too. And it has brought to my mind the idea that I should also focus more on this experience in my own garden too. For when the view when leaving a garden looks as pretty as this one really doesn't want to leave the garden at all. And if one happens to own the garden, one would certainly want to hurry back to it as soon as possible. Wow, that's a pretty boat too, but I didn't order that to this video. Anyway, when going out from the garden, one is right away faced with this very intensive heat wave that we are having today. And what is very interesting is that it's dampened in the garden by all the greenery, but again when one comes out from it, the heat really hits you. In fact, I think I'll go back just for a moment to wrap up this video. This is the first garden tour video that I've made for my channel, so I would very much like to hear your comments and thoughts about this video, how you liked it, and perhaps if you have any improvement ideas for the future when I'll be making more of these. Any comments really I would very much appreciate and find most helpful. And if you liked this video, please hit the like button, and you can also subscribe to the channel. It's totally free, and if you also click the notifications bell, you will be notified directly whenever I have posted a new video. Thank you very much for watching this one, and I hope to see you again next time.